of our Merry Craftimus series. And as I'm sure you know by now, I am collaborating with my crafty BFF, Robin Pitts of Sir Chauncey Rocco Creative Designs, and I will have her linked below in the description box. And I'm so excited you decided to come back and join us once again today. To remind everyone of our giveaway rules, you must be 18 years or older. It is open to US and international subscribers. You must be a visible subscriber to each channel and leave a comment for each video. And I have all of the giveaway rules listed in the description box. And as I always say, that's where all of the good information is. Today, you may be thinking, is this the right video? Because yesterday, I had a mini Mailbox memory decks card. Well, after I made it, I thought I wanted to make a larger version. I was inspired by a Mailbox in this paper pad, Home for Christmas by Cardstock. This is the Mailbox that I was trying to recreate, and I feel that it came out fairly well. And then I used Graphic 45 Let It Snow paper collection. This is an absolutely gorgeous collection. I loved working with it. Some collections just, I don't know, they just seem to, things seem to flow really nice. I did get both of those paper collections from ASC Craft Supplies, and I am a design team member, and I have a coupon code for you, which is Michelle10 for 10% off any regular price purchases. I did not use an SVG file for this project. I only used my scoreboard and paper trimmer. The finished Mailbox measures approximately 7.5 inches tall by 6.5 inches wide by 3 inches deep. So it's quite a bit of room in the box. As you can see here on the front, I made some poinsettias, and I used this die that Robin shared last weekend. So it's the Biggs Texture Fades. And I do believe this is the one that she shared. It's the one that I got, and I love the way it looks. It's the thick die with an embossing folder, and I loved using it. It cut and embossed great. So I love how these came out. And then for the leaves and the little swirls here, I used this holly berry spray from Heartfelt Creations that I did get from ASC Craft Supplies. And I used this die here and the leaf die there. They have beautiful dies, and it has a little bit of texture to them. I love working with their dies. They always cut really well. I have my beautiful poinsettias, and then I added some white ones underneath just to add a little bit of contrast to make them pop from the lid. And I have that greenery, and I used the Patterns and Solids paper that coordinates with the paper collection for it. And I love this burgundy with the holly leaves. And then I did put some gold around the mail slot, and at the top here I use this beautiful chipboard piece from the collection and the beautiful border strip paper at the top there. And I used a lot of the ephemera pieces here on the front and just layered them and pop dotted them. And it has the season's greetings, and then around our beautiful Santa we have Let It Snow, and once again the poinsettia. And then in the middle I used mini prills, I think is what they're called, for the centers, and I just use the glitter glue and then put them in, and it dries clear. And here I made a border strip to go in the ephemera buckle, and then I just cut some strips to put in behind that to make it pop. I love these snowflakes that were in the ephemera pieces as well. And we'll just turn it to the side, and you can see all of the dimension and the pop dots. And then on the side here we have this beautiful green that I thought, I used a little strip there just to tie it in. And then on the back, this beautiful burgundy. And then I did use the gold matting all the way around. And then a beautiful border strip here with the poinsettias and the Let It Snow. And then on the side, we have the green again. And on the bottom, I used the Let It Snow paper there. And the Santa Claus just happened to work out perfectly to be in the center. And of course, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. The Mailbox does open, so it's a functioning box. Even though I have those poinsettias there, I still I wanted one there so bad, I just went ahead and did it because the person can still open it and get what is inside. So it holds quite a bit if you wanted to use it for a gift box, but I think this would just make a beautiful home decor piece. I know yesterday someone in the comments said they wanted to make the little mailbox for their mantle, and I thought, oh, this big one would just be perfect for a mantle. So I went ahead and shared it today. And I want to point out some things before I start the tutorial. I do have some errors when I was giving out my measurements, so I did try to correct them and put them in the video. But to make sure you are getting the correct measurements, please refer to the description box. And also, I would recommend doing a dry fit of this front piece, and where it meets the side, there's a hinge on the front here, and I would do a dry fit to make sure these line up here in the front before you glue all of your front pieces together. The final thing that I would say is I would probably make a template for this hole as well as the back piece. I know last night I was kind of, after I was done with the tutorial, I thought, why did I not just make a template? But I do tell you how to cut your hole out and how to arch your back piece. So probably the best thing to do would be just go ahead and make you a little template, and then you could just lay it on and trace it on each piece, because I actually want to make another one of these. I wish I would have just done a template. So that's my advice for my mailbox. So as I mentioned, stay tuned for the tutorial. The first piece that I have for our mailbox is the front piece, and the cardstock is 6.5 by 6 1/4, and the matting piece is 6 3/8 by 6 1/8, and the decorative is 6 1/4 by 6. And our two side pieces, the cardstock is 4 by 7.5, and you are going to score at 1/2 inch and at 3.5 inches on the 4-inch side. And what I did was I turned my paper to the 7.5 inch side, and I came down 1.5 inches, and I made a little score line to that first one. And I think you can see the line that I drew a pencil line of where we're going to cut from where those intersect all the way up here to where the score line is. And on the second piece, you would turn it to the 7.5 inch side, and at the bottom score at 1.5 inches up to the score line, and then we'll cut from where they intersect and up this way. And I will have all the measurements in the description box, so always look there, because I know those will be accurate in case I say the wrong thing or you couldn't understand me. So the matting for the sides is 2 7/8 inches by 7 3/8, and the decorative is 2 3/4 by 7 1/4. And the bottom piece measures 4 by 7 1/2 inches, and I did score at 1/2 inch on all 4 sides. And the matting is 6 3/8 by 2 7/8, and the decorative is 6 1/4 by 2 3/4. The lid measures 6 5/16 by 4.5, and on the 4.5 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 4 inches. And then what I did was I went to the center of it, which is 2 1/4, and I came down a little bit, and I scored from right about here all the way down to right here. And I just kind of eyeballed maybe 1/2 inch, and then I turned it to the 6 5/16, and I scored it at just in the middle at about 3 3/16. And the decorative pieces, you're going to need 2 for the gold mat, and it measures 6 3/16 by 3 3/8, and you'll need 2 of the decorative, and they are 6 1/16 by 3 1/4. And the flaps that go along the front of the mailbox where our lid, the matting is 6 3/16 by 3/8, and the decorative is 6 1/16 by 1/4. And then for the back of the mailbox, we are going to cut a piece that measures 6.5 by 9.5, and you're going to turn it to the 9.5 inch side, and we are going to score whoops, from my score line. We're going to score at 7.5 inches, and we do not want to burnish the score line because I put it there so when we're attaching our lid, we can line our lid up with the line and make sure it's nice and straight. And for the gold piece that goes on the very back, our mat measures 6 3/8 by 9 3/8. And then if you have decorative paper that is large enough, the next piece that goes here would be 6 1/4 by 9 1/4. Since I was using an 8 by 8 paper pad, I chose to use a piece that measures 6 1/4 by 8 inches tall. And I'm going to lay it here. And then I have a little piece that is 6 1/4 by 1 3/8, and I'm going to lay it along the bottom, and it's going to overlap ever so slightly. And then I'm just going to flip this over. We need a piece of matting for it that measures 6 3/8 by 1 7/8, and then our mat will be 6 1/4 by 1 3/4. And on the sides, I have made little pencil marks at 3/4 inches down right there on each side. I hope you can see those. And then I also marked a little line in the center at 3 1/4. I just made a little pencil mark there because what I want to do is I'm just going to curve this ever so slightly from my 3/4 inch up into the center. I was inspired by the Mailbox in the Cardabella, I think it's Home for Christmas paper collection I've been using. It had the Mailbox and it had the rounded top. And I hope you can see this. I'll hold it up. And I'm just, like I did with the MDC, I'm just eyeballing this ever so slightly. And now I'm going to take my scissors and cut along my score line. And I may do this one since I like the look of it better. And of course you can come down more on yours if you would like. Now I'll try to make this as even as possible. I'm just kind of turning my paper ever so slightly. That turned out pretty good. Little tick marks help kind of keep you from not going too far over when you're rounding. We need to round the top of our matte and decorative paper. So what you want to do is this is going to be the side I'm going to glue this to. So I'm going to go behind and just flip this over and line it up where I want it. And I'm going to scoot it up just a little bit higher to give me my border. The sides are even, but I'm going to scoot it up and have a little bit larger at the bottom. So then when I trace it, hopefully it will be correct. And I'm going to put these little clamps so it doesn't move on me. Make sure it's all lined up. That looks good. So we'll kind of turn it around and just, whoops, take my pencil and I'm just going to trace my, and you could always make a template if you're afraid to cut on your paper. So now I'm just going to cut this out. I think that looks pretty good. Bring this piece in. I'm going to flip it over and make sure it's lined up along the edges are even. And I'm going to clip it. That way it will not move since this is larger than the Memory Dex card. And I'm just going to trace this and cut it out. And I have a few pencil marks, so make sure to erase if you see any. So now I'm going to glue my cardstock, my gold mat, and my decorative all together. I'm not going to glue on the top front piece yet because I want to put the lid and the bottom of it together in case we would be a little bit higher or off from our score line here. I'd like to do it at the end. That way, if we have a little adjusting, we can do that. So we'll set those aside. We will bring in our lid, and I'm going to bring in my ruler, and I brought in a 3/4 inch punch, and I'm going to make little pencil marks along this score line, and I think I want to do 3/4 of an inch on each side. I think I was pretty close when I was doing my scoring at eyeballing it, but just to be on the safe side, since this will be a prominent feature. So I've made my little tick marks. So I'm going to use a 3/4 inch punch, and I'm going to insert, and I'm lining my little tick mark from at the bottom of my circle, and then I'm just following along my score line and make sure it's lined up. And I'll punch that out, and then we'll turn it around and we will line, put the score line going down the middle, and my little tick mark is at the bottom. The tick mark is right here at the bottom, and then I've got my score line lined up, and that looks pretty good. So now I will take my ruler, and I'm just going to line my ruler along the top, and I can draw a line across, and then I can putting my ruler along the top of the circles, and I'm just going to draw my pencil line across so you can see, and then we'll just cut along there with an X-Acto knife. Now we made our mail slot, and of course now we can just trace it onto our other pieces, which will make it so much easier. I'm going to miter. I'm going to make this my front, and I'm going to miter this back corner like so for the lid. And now I am going to just, whoops, forgot my mat. I'm going to glue on the front flap decorative pieces. So I'm going to glue those on. I'm going to turn it over and then cut out this hole for the mail slot, and then I'm going to glue the inside mat and decorative pieces and then cut it out. And I did forget to mention, if you're using directional paper, and I'm putting this on the inside of my lid, when you raise it up, I'm going to put it upside down. So when you open it, the paper will be in the correct orientation. I forgot my magnet here on the flap. So I brought me a little piece of score tape, and I'm using a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch magnet. The 1/4 inch magnet, and just put it at about 3 inches. Just going to lay it down, get my fingers to work, and put my score tape over the top. So now I can glue this piece on. And now I can flip this over and do the front. So this is our lid. We can lay it to the side. Now we have our bottom piece, and I'm going to bring my scissors in, and I'm going to miter the corners. And you want to come up to that intersection line, but don't go past it, because then you would have a little hole in the bottom of the mailbox. So I'm just going to do the mitering on all 4 corners and glue my papers to the center. Now I have brought our side pieces in, and we are going to cut from our little score line here. I'm going to miter that edge, that front edge, and I'm going to cut along my little pencil mark up until that score line. Now we can bring in our other one. This one's a little easier for me to hold. I'm going to start here at my little pencil mark at the score line and just angle cut to our score line, and then miter that little bit there. We are going to do our gold matting. Remember, these two will face each other. So we're going to lay our gold mat down, and we're going to do like we did the top by just, I'm going to slide this up just a little bit more and bring our clips in. I have it centered. Make sure it's centered between your score lines, and then I'm just going to cut along this and unpin them, and see when I slide it down if that gives us a nice centered look. There we go. So now we'll do the same thing to the decorative paper. I'm going to go ahead and leave this where I want it so the gold will know how far to come up. Do that. Make sure it's even. Okay, and now we'll have our green piece, and I'm going to slide it up a little bit extra like I did the gold. So right about there. And now I'll clip it like so, and then we'll turn this over and we'll trim along that. We'll unclip it and make sure it fits, and it does. It looks like, well, it looks good to me. So, and then to do the other side, I think I'm just going to line these up and cut along the one that we cut previously. See if that works, and it does. Now we'll do the decorative, and you want to put the pieces, you want to put like sides together, like if you're sewing. And now we'll just trim along this one. Okay. And whoops. So now I'm just going to glue these to our side pieces. Okay, so we have our side pieces, and now we will glue our front pieces all together. And now I'm going to bring in our back piece and our bottom, and I'm going to put glue along this tab, and I'm just going to glue it right here. And you want to make sure that the side score lines are lined up with the edges of your paper. Now I want to bring in our side pieces, and I forgot to miter these corners a little bit. So you want to go past the score line on your 1/2 inch tab and just miter just a tiny little bit off of those corners. Just gives a little bit neater appearance. Glue on this tab, and I'm just going to line it up, and it's going to, the top will match up with that score line at the top, our little marker, and then the bottom will go like so. And I'm going to glue both side pieces the same way. Tab down, and I am lining it up with the bottom and right along the edge of our mailbox. Like so. I can run my finger and they're flush. Really good. We'll do the same thing to the other side. Going to do a dry fit for the front to the sides, and that looks good. So I'm going to put some glue on our tab, and I'm just going to line it right up into the score line. You don't want to go past the score line. Then we can fold it flat. We'll fold this one over, and I'm just going to do my dry fit, and that looks good. It's looking good so far. And now I'm going to put glue on our bottom 3 tabs and just fold it up into our box like so, and then I'll reach in and use my bone folder to secure my tabs. I have attached score tape to my lid, and I am going to go over it with art glitter glue. That way it will let me slide it just ever so slightly to get our lid adjusted. And this is where that score line, you can use it to line up your lid. And I angle the lid in as I push it up. I'm going to let it rest on the mailbox to make sure I get everything covered like I want. Just need to scoot down on this side just a little bit to go over. Okay. So you just want to make sure everything's in place. It's good like that. So I'm just going to open this up and I'm going to push it down, and I like the way it closes. And now we can bring in our other magnet. I'm just making sure I put the right side. So I'm going to put it up against my magnet, and I'm going to close this like this. And I'm going to get my pencil, and I'm just going to make me a line right there, so I'll know where to put my magnet. And when you're doing this, make sure your lid is lining up so you can get your magnet in the right place. I'm just going to draw one more little line right there, and I'm going to peel my magnet back, and I want to put the glue on this side since it adhered to my little magnet, and this is a 1/2 inch magnet. And I'm just going to go underneath, and I'm going to, like, there's my little tick mark, and I am just filling under there in the magnet. I have the magnet in place, and before it dries, let's close it. And that looks good, like that. I'm going to open it back up, and I'm just going to really give it a good push. And I have figured out, or at least for me, the 1/4 inch magnet and the 1/2 inch work well together on lids or doors, because when I use 2 1/2 inch magnets, when they meet, they are so strong, it sometimes will pull my lid or something to the side. And where I do this 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch, I can lay it, and this has a nice close, and I really like. So we have our decorative pieces that go along the top. I'm just centering this where I want our paper to be, and I've got my little bit of burgundy at the top and a little nice line of my cardstock showing at the bottom. I'm just going to clip this, and I know it would be easier to do before we put the box, but I just like making sure I get it matched up perfectly. So just put your hand underneath and give it a trace. This way I can adjust it, and it's easier to tweak these two little pieces than, for some reason, if your lid would have to be up a little higher, that this allows you that adjustment period. Okay, so we have our gold piece, and now I'm going to bring in our decorative, and I'm just going to center it from the top to the bottom and to the sides. Okay, and put our clips on, and we'll trace our Okay, so I've got my two pieces all trimmed and where I like that. So I'm going to glue them together now. Okay, so I have my pieces glued together, and now I'm going to attach it to the top of the mailbox. And now we have our mailbox assembled. Thanks for watching the tutorial, and if you have any questions, please just reach out to me and I'll do my best to answer them. Remember to be subscribed to mine and Robin's channels, and that you are leaving comments daily to be entered into the giveaways. I do have Robin's channel linked below, so make sure to give her a visit. Hey, if you create one of these, please share it with me. Either send me a pic or at least tag me so I can see what you make. I love seeing what everyone creates. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.